I'm Latina, 0.2% of funding is going to Latina. So that means that the investors that are distributing the capital, they don't look like me. So
Right.
I'm riskier. And what you see in venture is like they're all about like de-risking and investing in things that are low risk. So me as an entrepreneur, I'm high risk to a lot of investors. And then you put the category onto it and they're like, in the beginning, people thought it was a joke.
Hi everyone and welcome to LATV Latina exclusive. My name is Yanina, Latina TV host and all-around creative woman. I want to introduce a badass mujer, a ceiling-breaking guest, a friend of mine, Rebecca Alvarez. She is the founder and sexologist at the Bloomi, a company that is changing the way women think, care, and talk about their intimate health. Rebecca is a nationally respected sexologist that wants to educate you on how to take your power back by owning your own body. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we start the show with 2 roses and a thorn. So whether it's this week, this day, this month, or this year, what are 2 roses and a thorn for you?
For me, I would say my first rose is spending more time with my girls.
Okay.
I've missed a lot of moments as a business founder. So like I'm being intentional about my time with them. And 2, I'm going on my first girls trip to Oaxaca I can't even tell you. I think it's been since college because I had my first daughter pretty young. So I'm excited about that. And then thorn, I would say, I feel like it's a never ending growing pain as a business owner. So I feel like every day there's like a shoot that didn't work or like, oh, that was hard. So it's like, I think that's just like a constant little thorn.
Okay, I can see that. Now, for those that don't know Bloomi, tell us a little bit about what Bloomi is, because every woman should have it in their house.
I know. I want everybody to have a little bit of Bloomi. So Bloomi is an intimacy company, and I started the company because I had a 10-year career as a sexologist, and I saw a lot of patterns, and I really wanted to build intentional products that gave people a nice solution to whatever they were facing, whatever the intimacy struggle was. But we focus on plant-based. It's a bilingual brand, English and Spanish. And I really wanted to be accessible. So we can talk about like my version of accessibility. It is price point, but it's also like, where are you finding it? How do you hold it? Is it easy to use? So all of those things I incorporated into the products at Bloomi. And I'm huge on education. So people find tons of education, sexology information, and guides with their products.
Now, what is Bloomi's age now? How long has it been out?
It's been 4.5 years now.
Wow.
But what's interesting too is we launched our own products about 1.5 years ago. So it really feels like we're a baby company, even though we have some practice with like other parts of the business.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you started off as a sexologist.
Yes.
So what made you want to go and be a sexologist out of any career that you could have gone after?
It's like a long answer, but really, like, I think this is like, I feel very much like I'm in my purpose. It's been a lifelong journey with sex education for me, meaning like I grew up Latina, not talking about sex at home, right? My parents did try to have an awkward one-time sex talk, and I know that that does not work, everybody.
Right.
And I had abstinence-only education growing up in school, which I just had so many questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then most recently, I've been sharing this too. In college, I was sexually assaulted. And so all of these experiences made me so apprehensive about intimacy. And I thought I was never going to enjoy intimacy. And for me, it was super healing to learn about sex education. I took every class on campus. I went to UC Berkeley. There was like...
That's where my sister is actually about to go in the fall.
Oh, you should connect me. I feel like it was transformative for me.
Okay.
So liberal, so amazing. And I just dove deep into the space after that. I personally feel like it was healing for me. And I wanted to get this content out on like a mass scale. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I was just like, I want to do this. Like, I could do this.
Now, do you remember your first moment of being curious about sex as a child? Or like when you saw it, or like, you know, when you heard about it and you were like, wait, what is this?
Yeah, it was probably when I heard my parents.
Oh my God.
And I don't remember how old I was, but I think a lot of kids, they don't know, like, you know, they walk in on you, or it was one of those moments. I'm like, what are they doing? So I want to say I was maybe like 7.
Okay.
maybe. And I was like, I don't understand what they're doing, but I like didn't think that much of it. I didn't realize like sex was a thing. We don't know sex is a thing until we're told about it as like an
Right.
actual act. But and
And
then I'm
then
like learning about it a little bit.
mhm.
Like the sex ed in school, they talk about it, but for me, it was more like scary.
Mhm.
Like, don't get pregnant, avoid STIs, and try to just not have sex. That's probably the best. Like that was just the messaging I got.
And now you have a 14-year-old, so have you had the birds and the bees conversation with her, and how has it
Many.
been different from how your parents tried to do it?
So I'm trying to do what I know to be best practice, and I feel like it's been helpful. So having these little conversations, answering their questions, even if like you as the parent feel uncomfortable or embarrassed, answering their questions is so healthy and helpful.
Yeah.
So I started pretty early, but I also know that my daughter was getting good sex education in school. I was really
Mm,
intentional about the schools that
okay.
my kids are going to. I have two
Mhm.
girls now. But I did. I've answered really it started with like menstrual health. And like I would tell my daughter uses they them pronouns, tell them let's talk about your cycle and like what you're going to learn and so that was the beginning. I'd never have shame in my conversations with them. And answering questions, always I do these little teachable story and moments. So it starts when they're little with naming body parts, talking about privacy and just like concepts that are good to like have like self-confidence, I feel
Mhm.
like. And then it evolves to like, let's talk about your period and let's talk about love, let's talk about healthy relationships. Because people sometimes are like, don't talk to little kids about sex, but you don't call it sex to little kids. It's body education, love
Mhm.
education. And then with my now older daughter, we've had conversations about sex itself and like birth control. And it's really like, oh, mom, really? But honestly, they watch a lot of my content too.
Mhm.
So a lot of information out there.
Yeah, that's amazing because a lot of the times, like you said, it's very taboo to have these conversations, and they try to do it at times, parents, in such a weird way where it just makes it awkward. And then you end up running to your friends, you're trying to figure it out on your own. So, having that connection with your daughters, I'm sure it's super important to you.
It is. And I think it's also like, I want to say like now it's so different with Gen Z. And I
Hmm.
think it's Gen Alpha is the next. I think my baby is Gen Alpha, but it's not like I think for us like we didn't have like all this content,
Hmm.
right? Like they have tons of content, so even helping them like sift through that like if you have a question, ask me and they
Hmm.
trust that I'm going to give them an accurate answer, like that's really important to me too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And now, from being a sexologist to creating the Bloomi brand and having your products, which product was first and why was it important for it to be the first product you released?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. No one's ever asked me that. So let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
I was going to launch a wash. And I
Okay.
was going to launch it because in my mind I was thinking we need a better intimate skin wash. What's on the market has flavors or it has colors or it has preservatives. I just want a gentle wash.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought people would use it, you know, you replenish,
Mm-hmm.
thinking of it from a business standpoint. But I have an advisor who was like, what do you really want to launch? I was like, oh, well, I really want to launch an arousal oil. Like for people that just want a natural boost with botanical aphrodisiacs, just an oil that gets the mood going. And she's like, launch with that, then launch with that. And so it was this like trying to flip the script on like what I think I should do versus what I intuitively wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we launched Bloomi Arousal Oil. It was a huge success. And that was the reason why I realized like I really do need a line. I want to
Mm-hmm.
do a whole line.
That's amazing. And now, how many products have you released so far?
Let me count. 12.
12. That's a lot of products in
12.
like a year and a
A year and a
half. Do you
half.
count the year and a half since the
Yes.
first product? Okay.
And and those first products, they were actually a little bit like further back, but they were like our good test on the market.
Right, like the
So
soft launch.
yes, yes.
You know? Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your dream? Like what would happen with Bloomy for you to be like, all right, I made it? Like a little, what's your
Yeah.
next milestone that you want to reach, I guess you can
So
say.
like next milestone is I want to get to what we call in Startup World Series A. I
Okay.
want to close Series A. That means the business is at a certain point in revenue. That means that the size of the team, the number of doors we're in, it's
Because you're already in
probably
Target.
yes, we're in 1,500 Target stores. So
Okay.
we're considered full chain, which I know is amazing. And I feel really
Yeah.
like proud of it. But there's so much work to do. I still want to be in more stores. I want to make sure that we have these products on shelf because honestly, like, one, like being the only Latina brand in that aisle, Like, that's important to me to make sure I'm representing correctly. But then from the business perspective, I want to make sure that we're successful at retail. And that's hard to do. It is hard to do, but it's like, we're being creative. We're like side hustling. We're like engaging community. We're thinking outside the box in some of the traditional brands. But if you were to ask me, like, what's my big goal?
Yeah.
An acquisition.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one funny story that you shared in your event was your TSA story, which for those that don't know, you have the gentle wash, you have the oils, you also have the products in Target, which is crazy because I didn't know Target can be so spicy.
Target got progressive.
Yeah. So you have travel size vibrators.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your story and what made you want to create travel size ones.
So what happened, the story you're talking about is before I started the company, I was traveling and I was checking my suitcase and it started vibrating. And they all looked at each other, like everyone was looking at each other. And then they looked at me and I was like, oh my gosh, it is what you think it is. Like, it is a toy. What would you like me to do? Would you like me to take it out? And they're like, no, it's okay. So they just like re-zipped it back up and sent it out. So in my mind, I'm like, mental note, I want travel lock. Right? So all of our toys have travel lock. If you're traveling, you can put it on that mode and it won't turn on.
Okay.
But also, like, I've tried thousands of toys at this point. I feel like a lot of times they're over-engineered or too many features or too many settings. Like if you skip through the one setting you love and you have to rotate through all of them again, it's kind of frustrating. So I don't want to rotate through like a million things. So our toys are easy to use. 3 vibration patterns, 3 settings, and like the best vibration patterns that we found on the industry. We did lots of user testing. So they're compact. They're more compact. I don't think they all need to be really big is what I'm saying.
Obviously it's like if the product is good, it doesn't need to be huge because it's supposed to be a fun time with either your partner or with yourself.
Yes.
And how has your husband loved you going into this venture?
So I met my husband when we were dating. I had not started the company, but I had talks with him about, I want to start a business. I'm not sure what that's going to mean, but if we're going to be in this relationship, I want to be supported. And so he has been amazing. Like the company is where it is in a lot of ways because I have such a supportive partner and can get done so many things.
And as a Latina with your family, like your parents, your aunts, your tias, your grandmother, how was it letting them know that you were creating a sexual wellness company? Because it is a taboo topic a lot of the times.
It is a lot of times. I do think it's changing, and I think a lot changed during COVID, even though we started before COVID. But like COVID accelerated a lot of trends. People wanting to connect, people being sexually frustrated, like so many things about it helped normalize the category. And I think we're playing a little role in that too, the normalizing of things. But my family, my tias, my cousins, like they've always kind of known me to like not follow the rules in those ways. Like ever since I was little, like, oh my gosh, look what she did. Or like, why is she? It's always been kind of that vibe, but they're so supportive. And I think it just took them watching me and like, they were so supportive when we launched in Target. Just even having like a barbecue at my mom's house after, like it was a surprise and everyone came. Like people flew out and it was like, I've never felt that much love from my family. So I think they're just like, kind of like laughing a little like, oh my gosh, we're supporting the toys, but they also have them, right?
I was going to ask, I was like, so is that a birthday gift you give every time to a different tia?
I just send them the newest launches. And like, if we do product testing, I'm like, tias, you guys want to try it? Mom, you want to try it? Sorry, Mom. But like everyone just kind of tests it now. And yeah, it's kind of like it's like a beauty product.
So how, as a mom, would you give an advice to somebody watching and as a daughter if they want to have that conversation of curiosity? Yeah. When should the mom probably, I'll frame it this way. If the daughter comes to you and says, hey, Mom, I want to masturbate. How can a mom approach that conversation correctly without the shame, without the feeling of, I feel awkward as a mom having to have this conversation and to empower their daughter?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I hope that like people can take this and like actually apply it. But one, I would start by saying like, even if you're the mom and you feel uncomfortable, or you know how when we get uncomfortable, we're kind of hot and like we feel awkward. It's okay. That's normal because you probably are not used to having these conversations. So just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean they have to feel and grow up being uncomfortable about these
Mhm.
topics. So that's the first thing.
Mhm.
And then the second thing is, I would say it's also important to just meet them where they're at and figure out like what do they think it means,
Mhm.
because sometimes it's this quick question and they think it's something way more general and you don't have to go in deep awkward pieces of it. So for example, if a 4-year-old says, "Mom, what's masturbation? What do you think it is?" I don't know. And then they just like run off. I've seen this happen. It's like, and then you just leave the topic, but you're like allowing that space to start to grow, right?
Mhm.
Let's say a 15-year-old says, "Mom, like my friends are talking about masturbation. Can you talk to me about it? Or I'm curious." You can say like, "Mija, it's self-pleasure and you should engage in it when you feel comfortable. It's healthy. Um, a lot of people have other messages that are negative, but it's actually good for your body. And as long as it's done in a way that's making you feel good, in private, like all of these things, they're good for you to start to learn your body."
I love that. I love that. Now, when it comes to Bloomi and it being a sexual wellness company, you let us know that you're very curious as a child. Then, you had a unfortunate incident happen when you were in college. Was there anything growing up that made you want to start a business and you had that entrepreneur spirit? Because it is a scary thing to do, from
Yeah.
going to being a sexologist, going to school for it and all that stuff, to then saying, I want to do more than just this. I want to open a company.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
So I want to say that I've always had that little girl entrepreneurial spirit. I think it comes from being first gen and being so closely connected to the immigration stories of my family and like that American dream seed. Like
Mhm.
I think it's just always been in me. Like I remember being little, like I would start businesses all the time. Like I would sell bracelets to my mom, or I would like collect all the books in the house and create like libraries. You can rent out books. And then it evolved to like, what if I made kits for like period products? It was just like little things growing up. So I was always interested in business. I
Mhm.
used to tell my mom, and I think I was like 5, that I was going to be a doctor and have a nightclub. So
Balance.
it's funny because now I'm like, I was very fascinated by the body, right? And I wanted a business. So it's like, isn't it kind of interesting? Like it's kind of a version of that. I know I'm an expert in sexology. I
Mm,
was not an expert in business, even though I
yeah,
took a business class here and there. So that was my learning curve.
right.
And in the beginning, I did whatever I could to really feel educated on business models, investing, capital raises, whatever it was. And it was a lot to learn. I think now I'm in a very good place, but it was just a lot of self learning and pushing myself.
Yeah.
I just finished a scaling program at Stanford Business called LBAN, for example.
Okay.
Top entrepreneurs in the country, so such a sacred like space. A
Mhm.
lot of us don't have business training, and so a lot of us are experts in other fields. So I'm always a student, I'm always learning, but business is like you have to know your numbers. You have to
Right.
like
And how did you come up with the name Bloomi? Where did it come from?
the name Bloomy. I had a naming session with my husband. So
Okay.
he's in marketing,
Okay.
and there was a whole evolution to it. But basically, what I wanted is a easy to remember, simple word
Mhm.
that when you saw it, it would make you think a little bit about the body, and it would kind of like remind you of like growing or flourishing.
Okay.
So if you look at the logo, right,
Mhm.
a lot of people are like, yeah, it kind of reminds me of like breasts or like a butt or something because of the O's.
Oh, how
So it's
funny.
not like it's very subtle. It's not like we're really pushing that, but we went through a lot of iterations of it. I also thought about naming it something that was like Spanish or
Mm.
sounded, you could read it and it would sound the same in English and Spanish. It's
Yeah.
just, there was a lot of evolutions, but something short, sweet, a little playful.
Right. That's amazing. Now, when it comes to Bloomy, what it is now, would you say that different things as a Latina, in the sense of sexual taboos, have shifted now with this company?
I would say I am now seeing a lot more narratives of pleasure. So stories of pleasure and like Latinas especially like wanting to own it more.
Because I don't know if, I mean, you're more in this industry than me, but I don't know any other Latina-owned sexual wellness companies.
There's very few. There's
Right.
very few. We're the only one in mass retail.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's exciting and it's also sometimes
Scary.
pressure and sometimes like
Right.
it's the mix, right?
How is that being in like in that type of industry where it's probably very male dominated and very American, I would think,
Yeah.
dominated, to be in those rooms and to enter those places that, like you said, you're the first in mass retail.
I feel like I've been the first all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that it's something that I necessarily am like, oh, I'm proud to be, even though maybe my community cheers me on and is proud of me for that. But it always means that I'm like breaking barriers in like a way, like I go through a lot to be in the rooms that I'm in. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that I've been used to it a little bit, but it's very rare when I see another Latina in spaces that I'm in,
Yeah.
except in my company. The way I'm building my company, like there's a lot of people of color, especially
Nice.
Latinas. But overall, like for example, being the only Latina that has a brand in that entire aisle in Target,
Mm-hmm.
there's more work. We need more. We need
Of
more Latinas. We
course.
need more of us. So I always like try when I can. We talked about this, but try to carve out time for entrepreneurs that are maybe earlier in the journey and that
Mm-hmm.
or want to go into retail. Like I try to like mentor when I can
Mm-hmm.
because we need more. Like I shouldn't be the only sometimes. Like I shouldn't be the only one in Target. I shouldn't be the only one that's raised this amount of capital. Like it shouldn't be like that.
Was
But
it hard raising capital for a Latina-owned sexual wellness company?
very.
How did you go about it?
I did all of the prep that I could, fundraising boot camps, fundraising accelerators, like preparing, making sure everything's ready to go. Like if you all saw like our materials, they're like tight and beautiful and like on point. My
Mm-hmm.
numbers are great, but like I'm Latina, 0.2% of funding is going to Latina. So that means that the investors that are distributing the capital, they don't look like me. So
Right.
I'm riskier. And what you
Mm-hmm.
see in venture is like they're all about like de-risking and investing in things that are low risk. So me as an entrepreneur, I'm high risk to a lot of investors. And then you put the category
Right.
onto it and they're like, in the beginning, people thought it was a joke, honestly. Like so many inappropriate comments, so many like things that I'm just like, I pushed through a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sexual wellness is hot in like
Right.
investing. And like now, like it's different.
Well, because it was looked down upon and kind of like dirty for a really long time. And now it's looked at wellness, knowledge, being aware, self-aware of what you have, body aware. So now with all of that, what are your top 3 taboos in sexual world that you feel you want to X out?
That's a good one that I want to X out. That masturbation is bad for you.
Okay.
It is a game changer. It will not only like help you feel more comfortable with yourself, but then you can tell your partner what you like and don't like, and like everything gets better, right? So masturbation. 2, I would say getting rid of the idea that if you're not in the mood to have sex, there's something wrong with you. So low libido is the most common sexual complaint in the US, in the world, but in the US, usually it's because we're tired or we're stressed. And how many people do you know in the US culture that work a lot of hours or they have a lot of family responsibilities? Like it's so ingrained in our culture, which that could be another topic.
Right.
But I would say like just normalizing low libido. Sometimes you're just not in the mood and that's okay. If you want natural boosts, you want to be in the mood, like we got you. But
got the oil.
that, and then I think the last thing is I would also want people to know that they can like level up in their sexual wellness no matter what age, what relationship, what stage they're in, because there's so many adults that they're in their, late 40s having the first orgasm ever with work that we've done together or a product they tried. I think at any stage, when you want something to be enhanced, improved, changed, whatever, change it. Like go for it because our sexual preferences and like what we're into, they change with every relationship and as we get older.
Of course, we're forever evolving in every part of us.
Yeah.
Now, what is success to you?
Okay, so I think success for me has always been like, can I get to the top of the thing that I want to accomplish? So for me, we talked about it, but can I get this business to be as successful as possible?
Can I cut you off and
Mhm.
say it's not can you get this business?
Yeah.
Is when am I going to get this business because it will come to you.
I want it. I do. And I feel like I'm doing everything you're supposed to do. So I'm almost like I can't fail because it's not an option. That's how I feel. But I also have learned the hard way that in achieving really ridiculous goals, you don't have a lot of time. And I don't want to miss important moments with my family.
Yeah.
Because I started to do so much and felt like things were so critical in the business side that I would put off things like, oh, the things I miss. I miss my baby's 3-year-old birthday. I can't even say that right. Her third birthday.
Oh.
That I was like, no, never again. Not missing birthdays or
Yeah.
first days of school, like things like that where I'm just like, no, like there was no meeting or no trip that was so critical that I had to miss that. So now it's like balanced success. I want balanced success.
And I think that's going to come to you because you have everything in order and in the right cards for it to come your way. And you're the only Latina owned sexual wellness company in mass retail. And you're actually opening doors for so many other people.
I hope
So
so.
that's something to be very proud of because that is a success story in itself.
Thank you.
So, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on the show today
having
and sharing
me.
your empowering journey with us. Where can the audience find you?
So me personally, I'm at Rebecca Alvarez Story. That's my website and my socials. And then if you're interested in the company, it's thebloomi.com or all the socials are at thebloomi.
Well, thank you so much for this episode of LATV Latina Exclusives. I'm your host, Yanina Yarso. Make sure to follow us on at LATV Latina and download the LATV Plus app to catch all the episodes. Until next time, bye.